Life is a selfish experience. Who's going to breathe for you? And who's going to die for you?
How can people move on from that feeling of selfishness?
Awareness is amazing.
One of my biggest fears is like, you know, look at Mateo grow up and they don't consider me a great dad. It's in my head every single day.
But love is a really huge skill.
You say you found me, but I think I found you.
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
Time passes fast. You're in an altered state, intense focus. And here's a big one. Your ego disappears.
Where can I bring awareness, right, to identify that superpower?
And the thing about flow, when we're in flow, we can become 500% more productive. Get to live a life with no regrets. That's how you do it.
We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing some
I'm
things that I
Luis.
know you haven't
And you're
heard
listening to the
before.
Content is Profit podcast.
Right.
Yeah, we usually have a money sound in there, but we don't have the board, so.
Anyways, Fonzie, I'm excited about today. I've been talking about this person for quite a while. We share, actually, every couple of weeks we jump on a call together, and every time I am so impressed and inspired by what she shares.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, because you're not on those
Yeah,
calls, baby.
I'm jealous because I'm not on those calls. But at the same time, I'm excited because I feel like I have more room for surprise today. You know, I'm here
That's right.
as a learner.
That's right. That's right. I mean, she is this incredible coach. She's helped hundreds of people, and right now she's about to start killing it in the content game, which is part of the conversation I really want to go through today. Very successful content creator, so I cannot wait to
So
dive
she's
into
more
this.
like behind the scenes type of deal.
She maybe a little bit. I'll let her explain.
I
in
will see.
just a second.
We'll see how it goes.
But yeah,
I want to say, besides that, we're probably going to be talking a little bit about unleashing your highest potential.
that's right.
By being the master of your mind and emotions. And for purposes of disclaimer, I did take that from her website.
Yes. I mean,
hey, that's what she's claiming to be her expertise, so we're gonna dive into
that's
that.
right. So please welcome everybody, my good friend Sherry Goldman.
Let's go, Sherry.
Welcome, Sherry. How you doing?
I was just jamming out.
I love it. I love it.
Fun fact, Sherry, you want to share the news that you just told us about your new artist, world? Can we?
Oh my God, that I'm going to be a rock star in addition. I'm adding that to my list.
Yes, absolutely.
That is so cool. So you said adding that to your list. Does that mean that you have like multiple identities, right? You're like, this is something superhero, multiple identities.
Well, Fonzie, you asked such a good question, because when you want to perform at ultra high levels, there are things that are just mandatory. And you have to do certain things to ignite things to happen in your brain. And we all do that a little differently.
Okay.
And so that's why I am a rock star and singing and acting, and I'm a dancer, and I do yoga and I run. And I mean, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm not kidding. I'm into this ultra performance transcendent success.
Yeah.
And you have to do these things to your brain, and it pays off.
Yeah.
Cool.
So-
I like it. And,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we're going to dive into more of that in this
Yeah,
conversation.
so for the sake of context, Sherry, I'm going to share, some of the things that you share with us, right? You've helped hundreds of people live substantially better lives, have more passionate relationships, and live more to their absolute fullest potential. And by the way, you and me, we jumped in a call, and that call, like, absolutely changed the trajectory of, like, that month for me. So, like, I really, like, loved hearing what you said on that call. You absolutely practice what you preach. I see it every single time that we meet, right? You walk the talk and you live on your highest potential. Absolutely. Personally and professionally, I think we're both like we've been both experimenting a lot of transition over this last year, right? So I've seen it firsthand, and I love that we're about to have this conversation, right? And you have developed and honed on one of the most effective and innovative, I can't say it.
Innovative.
Innovative. Wow. Where is my
Clearly,
English? Where
clearly,
where
we
am
need
I
like
English?
a reading lesson
Blah,
in here.
blah, blah. Innovative toolbox on the planet to help driven people reach new levels, which is what I experienced, and we're gonna talk about that, right? And of course, you know, you are a coach who runs, does yoga, dances, acts, sings, plays music. Right now, you're about to do the rock band. That's what the thing that you know you were sharing, and you're about to be a content creator. So, anyways, that's just for context for people to be like, okay, now we're good. Now we're sold.
I
Now you're sold.
I
And
have a question.
Fonzie,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I want you to hold me up to this. You have to make sure that I do this, okay? I've got 2 secrets
Ooh.
I'm going to share with you in this conversation.
Okay.
So if I get distracted, you make sure I tell you the 2 secrets.
All right, I'm putting here in all caps in my notes 2 secrets. And you know, since this is clearly gonna be the hook for the main episode, we gotta deliver, right? Because if not, it's considered clickbait, guys, and that is no good. We don't want any clickbait. Now, Sherry, I'm so curious about how did you find out about this kind of like tuning into this identities, right? Because I don't think that's something that comes very common for people. And we've had a conversation previously with, probably you know him as well, Bart Miller. And that I think that was the first time that we get introduced to this concept of tuning into these identities, right? But I'm so curious on your story and how you got to the point where you discovered this or somebody taught it to you.
That is a good question. And what we tend to see in social media are the shiny parts. So I'm glad you asked this because, like most of us, how did I get here? I got here because I was a great dancer and I just couldn't tap in to the talent I had.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you have talent and you can't really get to it, it becomes a form of torture. And so, and I had great successes as an entrepreneur, but I could not sustain this high level of loving life, of feeling zestful, of feeling like I know how to get this, like I know how to rock and roll because I would And so I searched for answers and they're not out there. They're not out there. It's like, okay, so you can go cure depression or you can go be successful, but how do you sustain? And so it led to a very unexpected and unplanned journey of decades to really get answers. And so now I live by these answers. I thrive in these answers. I grow in these answers. And I call it transcendent success because successful people, we need more because you can feel it's not enough. Success is wonderful. But if you think about the toolbox that we build to create success, it's amazing. It's self-reliance, it's risk-taking, it's getting out of the box, it's novelty, it's commitment, it's grit. Those are phenomenal.
Yeah.
But to have an amazing life experience where you love and you live your whole life, the success toolbox, well, it's not big enough.
Yeah.
It needs to be bigger because success is a certain skill, a certain box of skills, and we need more than that. So transcendent success is a lifestyle of surpassing what you already know forever. Yeah.
Cherry, I love this, right? Just on the way here, I was getting some food, and I was listening to these interviews with Lewis Hamilton. Do you know who Lewis Hamilton is?
No.
He's a 8-time or 7-time world champion of Formula One, high speed racing, right? And it's the first podcast interview that he actually does. And they were talking.
Was it an interview at Content is Profit? Was that the first one he did?
Absolutely.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's
not
coming. It was on Jay Shetty's podcast, and
nice.
it was actually really good. And he was talking about he's at the absolute best, right, at what he does. And you spend so many years honing in on that one skill, which for him is driving really, really fast, really, really good without crushing a multi-million-dollar machine, right? And winning consistently for so many years in a row, right? And he's at the point of his career where he's starting to question a little bit of his success. That, am I good enough? Am I young enough? Right? There's a lot of these young up and coming racers that are probably 10 years younger than him and are giving really good competition, right? So there's a lot of self-doubt there, but at the same time,
Right.
he's starting to find that purpose and how he wants to evolve and continue to maybe develop other skills, right? So to be really good at one thing, right, he says on his side, and I think I kind of agree with him as well, is that you really need to get into that one thing and be extremely focused to be the best. But now what he's finding is like, well, I've had all these areas of interest that I've neglected over the years to become the absolute best at this. And now in this new phase that he has a nonprofit, he's helping with inclusion in many, many areas of the world. He's like, how do we now go from that one skill to start assigning time and developing the other skills that I really want to do? And I thought it was really curious, right? Because that desire of other things, and I think as entrepreneurs and business owners, we feel that every single day, right? Like we might get distracted by some of them, but also we feel the desire to continue to learn new and different skills. How do we balance that? And how do we actually make the decision to go and tackle these new skills? How do we know is the right time? And I think it ties together with the transcendent success, right?
Exactly. And so I actually don't think it's about balancing. I don't think balancing is real. Because passion is not balanced. So it's about how do we use our passions so that we don't suffer over them. So, and that's the skill. Because we have these abilities, and if we don't know how to maximize them, they become a pain.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's not about balancing, it's about optimizing.
Okay. I like what you mentioned. How do we use our passions so we don't suffer over them? I think that's a powerful phrase, right? And you mentioned after that, it's about optimizing them, right? And how do we start doing that, right? And I relate a lot to this because I've considered myself a very passionate person, and I attach a lot of my emotions to my passions.
I agree.
And at the same time, I'm somebody that I think this is just a human condition in general, but I love novelty, right? And a lot of times when I'm, chasing some of these passions, for example, building a business, sometimes you might fall into, a routine, doing one thing over and over. And again, part of it is having the discipline to do those things over and over again, right? But in that, I feel like sometimes I get lost and I lose some of that passion, right? And try to seek some novelty, something that can spark that passion again, right? And to tie that into something that maybe the listener can relate to as well is relationships. After you've been in the same relationship for a long period of time, things start to, kind of like die down a little bit, that passion. And sometimes to ignite that again, you need some novelty, include some novelty in the relationship, right? Do different things with your partner, go different adventures, etc., right? To kind of like bring that passion back into life. But then what does it mean exactly to optimize that? How do we optimize that passion? How can we maybe give a few steps for the listener right now to start optimizing their own passions?
Well, I think it's time for secrets.
All right, let's go.
I mean, like,
Bring
yeah.
on.
Yeah. So your question was just right on. So I'm going to say something to you, Fonzie, that you know, but now I want you to really know this. You're gifted with and plagued by the ability of novelty. It's a gift you have, right? Mm-hmm. You're good at it. You see it. You go for it. And if you don't have it, you're maybe antsy or irritated, right?
Yep.
So there is, and I'm going to give you a word for it. It's a superpower. Okay, so transcendent success. Here's the secret today. There are two key things that we absolutely need for transcendent success. And one is we need to know what our superpowers are. And I'll tell you a little bit about that if you're curious. But
Yeah.
Fonzie, one of yours is novelty. Okay, so we need to know our innate superpowers. These aren't the skills that we put on our resume. Those are skills. Like if you play the violin, you've achieved that skill through practice. That's not a superpower. That's a skill. So superpowers we're born with, and it is just the way it is, and they don't go away. Okay? So we need our superpowers. We need to know what they are. They're so innate and natural that we don't even realize we have them often.
Mm.
See how you have this novelty? I want you to know not everyone has it. There are people, Fonzie, who thrive on consistency. They're just different. They're just different. So you have it, and they're easy to ignore because they come so naturally. So we need to know our superpowers. And then the second thing that we need to know how to do is we need to know how to trigger flow states.
Mm.
Okay. And flow states they're neuroscientifically proven. When we're in flow, if you see, like you two are, soccer people, if you see someone doing something in a game that's absolutely spectacular, like it almost seems superhuman.
Yeah.
We do superhuman things. On a regular basis, we do actually do superhuman things. When you see it, that person, I can guarantee you, they're in a state of flow.
Yeah.
And what happens when we're in a state of flow is there's no drug you can take to create a flow state, because no drug is going to give you the 6 neurochemicals that happen when we're in flow. There are 6 of them. Let's see. Endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, anandamide, and there's one more. And so no drug you can take is going to do that to your brain, but flow does. And the thing about flow, when we're in flow, we can become 500% more productive. Like, wow, really? It's actually proven. We can become 500% more productive. We're at peace, and we know things that we wouldn't normally know. We can do things beyond what we can normally do.
Yeah.
And we can get good at doing this to ourselves. Now, the reason I'm bringing up today superpowers and flow is because one of the best ways to trigger your own flow state is through your superpowers. And because when we use our superpowers, we don't have to work hard. We're innately great at our superpowers. So we're going to just excel because it's the way we are. And so when you use your superpowers, when you feel really authentic, you're really great at what you do. And it's one of the easiest ways to trigger yourself into flow. Yeah. And so a transcendent success where you're always surpassing, a lifetime of being able to surpass our own selves, those are 2 key factors.
Interesting. I love this. I took a lot of notes. I'm definitely going to revisit this back. And I guess the follow-up question for me, a little selfishly here, right? You're saying that my superpower is novelty, and I'm
one of them,
right? So people have multiple superpowers, and I'm looking back at my life, and I can spot multiple moments. Like, first of all, the thing that I've been the most consistent with in my life has been soccer. Like, I've just played soccer my whole life. I still love it. I still play. But besides that, I love learning new things, right? So I think it's that aspect of novelty that you mentioned, right? And I remember when we first started doing the social media marketing agency, right? This was years back. I started diving into learning how to use a camera, how to edit video. And at that time, I had my ex-girlfriend, and I remember she comes and I'm editing late at night, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I remember this so clearly. I turned to her, I was like, "I think I found what I can do for the rest of my life," And I was like, AKA video editing. I was like, I think I can do this for the rest of my life. Fast forward a few months, I'm like, I don't want to do this ever again. I'm tired of it. I want to find somebody that can do this for us. And that moment, the realization of that, I think it was kind of iconic in a way for me. And now I remember it. And now looking back at it, I'm like, I think that's just, like you mentioned, putting a tag on it. That's my superpower, in the sense that I'm like, I like learning and kickstarting these things. I'm a good starter. And then I probably need the help, right? The consistency, somebody that is a great finisher, right? AKA my brother here, right?
There you go.
My brother's a great partner for these things. But I think
you say you found me, but I think I found you.
Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But I find that very interesting. And, I always say that just having awareness of something is a superpower of itself, because now you have the power of making a decision. And now that I have awareness of this novelty superpower, right, I think it gives me an option, which is, okay, how do I start embracing this superpower? How do I start utilizing novelty to maybe kickstart some processes? But at the same time, how do I plan around it so I can set up the next part, the consistency that's coming up, to the best of its ability, right? Like,
okay, so let's dive in a minute. And this one is for both of you. So your superpower is not playing soccer.
Yep.
Okay. That's the skill.
Yeah.
So what are superpowers of someone who would gravitate to soccer, highly excel at soccer, and love it? So I'm going to say speed, fast twitch, right? Because you can be a great athlete, but be slow twitch, be more of a marathoner. You don't want a marathoner on your soccer team, right? So fast twitch. I would say hand-eye coordination. I would say depth perception, because you're playing in a field and you have to be able to sense the goal and your teammates, right? And they're all around you. So you have all those skills. And another skill that I think soccer players have, and maybe a lot of team sports have, is one, you're probably empathic. And what I mean by that is you can sense the other people around you. You can sense what's going on. You can sense what the other players are doing. And so you're perceptive. And another innate superpower is you're not swimming. Swimming, you're in the pool and you're doing it all by yourself. You're in a team. So I'm going to say you probably naturally both have a team player mindset.
Yeah.
Not my brother. He doesn't pass the ball. He doesn't pass the ball. So
Wow.
I'm kidding. He's a great team player.
I might be too much of a team player sometimes, so that's okay. That's a conversation for a different day. Sorry,
okay, and now novelty.
Yep.
You're probably, Fonzie, at least, using this naturally in soccer, because every time you're playing, it's novel. Someone else who's out there to like to exercise, or they'll find it boring after a while. But you always find it novel. So you're using these things, a lot of these skills, without even having to work at it. I mean, you have to work to be good at it, and you have to be consistent. But those superpowers are what make you good, really good, or great. Yeah.
I'm listening to this, and I love it. And at the same time, it's helping me kind of look inside of me and ask these questions where, like, okay, where can I bring awareness, right, to identify that superpower, right? Because that's, I think, as a business owner or a content creator too, it's a must do, right? So we can learn how can we start delegating, and how can we start like hiring our vendors and going here. But I remember before that, even on the flow state, to recognize that I remember a specific scene. I remember specific moments of our soccer career that I remember everything that's happening in that specific moment playing. Where the people were, what happened, everything is in slow motion, my thoughts, you know, and I remember our dad used to sit us down in the kitchen after each game, right? And we have this little whiteboard, and he will be like, "Hey, remember this play?" And then we'll talk the play, and then he'll draw the figures in the whiteboard, and we'll talk about this. And our mom is a mathematician, right? And she teaches in a university, and she comes and it's like, how is it that you guys come from this game and remember all these specific details about what just happened? And you can't remember like the math equations that, you know, we've been studying for 3 hours, right? And it's because we were in this flow state while we were playing soccer. And it's incredible, right? And then now I'm as you were having this conversation, you know, just now I'm trying to remember, like, what are those flow stages inside of my business today? Because those are indicators of things when I'm doing that I enjoy. Maybe the time passes real fast. And
so time passes fast. You're in an altered state, intense focus. And here's a big one. Your ego disappears. You're no longer competing or winning. You're just in the zone. And the second that you need to do it well, it kind of will spit you back out. So those are clues that you're in the zone.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
And you can be in the zone micro or macro. So what you're recalling is a macro event. And so I'm going to tell you what I've accepted for myself, life on life terms, because it's my nature, because I need novelty, because I have a curiosity that's never ending, and I need newness, and I need joy, and I need love and all. So flow on a daily basis. Flow on a daily basis. And that is not wasting time. It's mandatory, because that means on a daily basis, I'm getting at least some micro or macro, all those 6 chemicals in my brain.
Yeah.
That's become like a regular event for me. And that's one of the ways that we're going to optimize our performance. And it sounds like it's a big deal. Like our head would go, oh my God, I have to like make that commitment. And I'm going to say it can be short.
Yeah.
It can be 5 minutes, or it can go be an hour, or it can go be a week away. Yeah. So there's all kinds of ways to do it, but it's mandatory. Yeah. Because that's how we elevate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So sorry, real quick. So it sounds like it's kind of like a muscle that you got to work at, but I'm curious, how do we get into that state, right? Because I felt it. I felt that state before that my brother mentioned, like soccer, sometimes here at work. Again, back to the story of when I was learning how to video edit, I was in flow those first, you know, let's say a couple of weeks when I was learning, doing all the learning and implementing. I had moments of flow.
Sorry, I feel every time Fonzie is in flow too, because he gets so excited that he interrupts anything that I'm doing to tell me about the thing that he's learning. And that's my trigger.
So now here's
so I'll tell you, you're in flow.
Okay, here's a team. Okay, so Fonzie, I want to answer you first. You already did this innately. You don't even know that you did it, perhaps. You're a soccer player, which means you're a team player. Okay, now being a team player isn't perfection, because other people are going to sometimes or another team, you're going to get knocked down, you're going to get elbowed, the two of you are going to rub each other. So you have to know that you're a team player. That's how you excel. And then you have to also self-induce flow. So I'm going to tell you some things that the two of you just did without thinking about it. How do you start your podcast?
How do we start? We turn
jamming out.
Okay. I was gonna say we turn the computer on. Yeah, step 1.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I mean, here's how you start. You put that music on, and then the two of you, I'm going to just now, because awareness is key, right?
Yes.
What do the two of you do? You put that music on, and you deliberately start laughing and start moving around and start talking to each other. You deliberately elevate and come in as a team. Whatever's annoying about the two of you right then, you don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's how you started it. And that's probably
I love that observation, but I mean, just 2 days ago when we recorded, I remember I was coming pretty, and there's a lot of days that this happened, right? Like maybe Fonzie's in a meeting, maybe we just came out of a heated conversation, right, on processes, but just a couple of days ago, I came in here and he's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I was coming frustrated for something, and I remember I just sat here and I took like 3 deep breaths, right? And he's like, "Yes, that's good." And then we literally put the music on, and our state changed. Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Now, do you have a soccer ball in this room?
Not right
And
now.
do you kick the ball around a couple of times before you sit down? And I'm going to say, if you're not, why not?
Yeah.
If you don't have a soccer ball around in your studio.
Yeah. Not in the studio. Not in the studio now. We need one.
Okay, and maybe it's one of those soft ones that don't do any damage.
No, it's okay. We have good skills. We'll bring the real ones.
So life on life's terms. Like you accept that. So if you're an athlete, you're not an athlete when you have time. Not if you want to optimize, and not if you want to because what happens is when we do this to our brain, it shows us also how to be in our relationships. It's not like, oh my God, I got to go take time. I got to go be with, because I've been so busy and I know they're mad at me. That's not going to work. You trigger flow and you go home and you're like, hi, like, oh my God, I'm so happy and that person, you get to give yourself that way.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's not effort. It's actually real.
Yeah. I actually
I
was gonna say I actually leave it with my kids, right? Whatever day I had, whenever I get home and pick them up at 5, is I have to trigger. It's like I must trigger this flow moment with them. I cannot transfer whatever energy that I'm bringing in that's negative, that I consider negative. I cannot do that. So I go through this. I don't know if it happens naturally because when you do become a dad, things change, right? But the second I see my kids, everything changes, right? And for the next 3 hours while I'm with them and, we play, we eat dinner, we get them ready for bed. Nothing, I'm in flow during those 3 hours with them. So I think it's so important, like what you just said, it's maybe anchoring, maybe I'm interpreting this way, like anchoring these moments, right? And bring awareness from these moments and actions to then continue to recreate this flow moment. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
And I want to give you one little thought, because life is selfish and a transcendent lifestyle, we have to want it badly enough.
Yeah.
It has to be all about me, because that's the only way I'm going to do it. That's the only way I'm going to know if I'm in it. And that's the only way I'm going to share it. And that's the only way I'm going to make my highest impact all across the board. So here's a subtle thing I want to say. You're not doing it for your kids. Mm-hmm. You're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. And when we're really honest like that, we're doing it for ourselves. Why?
100%.
Because then we get to be that dad. Then you get to be that person who's going to leave a legacy. Then you get to be that person who's going to have these relationships that just blow your mind. Yeah. Then you get to live a life with no regrets. That's how you do it.
Can I connect the dots real quick before? I know, Fonzie, you have a couple thoughts on this, but I mean, just last night, obviously I want to be a great dad, right? It's one of my biggest fears is Luca and Mateo grow up and they don't consider me a great dad. And that's one of the things that it's in my head every single day. So last night we came in late from 4th of July. We have fireworks, whatnot, way past the kids' bedtime. We put him down. I still had to walk the dog, right? As 30 more minutes. I'm like, boy, tomorrow's an early day. So put the baby down. Luca, who's the oldest, he's 4. He's with Katie. And I come in. I'm like, hey, Luca, I hope you have a wonderful night. I'm about to go walk Atlas. And he's like, okay. And then I leave, right? And the tradition the last month or so is that I stay with him in bed and I just make up a story. He loves making up stories, right? And just me and him, we shared that moment and it's good. And I was putting, the leash on the dog or whatnot. And Katie comes out and I hear just Luca screaming, crying, right? And she's like, hey, he's sad because you're not telling him the story. And in my head, I'm like, well, I told him that I was gonna go walk Atlas, that tonight was no story day. And then I remember going back to that moment where, like, first of all, we're running out of time with the, you know, they're growing so fast, right? And it's like, how many more nights am I gonna have to tell him a story before he tells me no, dad, right? And then it's like, okay, it's whatever, it's 10 more minutes. And then I remember going into that state of flow and that change of, because I was exhausted. All I wanted was to go to bed, right? We spend the whole day together in the sun, right, in the pool. Not a bad thing, a really good thing, but it's like, I need to go to bed. That was my thing. So went back in there and we actually spent like 30 minutes, right? And it was fun and it was all these things. And it's like connecting that, you know, to, I go back and I'm like, wow, I did this for me. I want to be a good dad, right?
There. So let me connect a couple of dots again with what you said, okay? Because like you said, Fonzie, awareness is amazing. So here's a clue. When you're in a battle over time, I promise you time will win, okay? Because there's only so much time. So time is always going to win. And if you're in a battle with time, it's a clue that you're in your head. And if you're in your head, then you could say you're in your ego and you have been catapulted out of flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you use it almost like an athlete, if you use it as your information, oh my God, I'm obsessing about time. I'm worried. I'm not in flow. I need to just bump myself a little bit into flow. And what can you do right then? A simple thing. You can just follow your breath. You can just follow your breath and it'll be micro flow. Take it, because it doesn't take time to do that. And so you start to just notice your own breathing because we don't have to remember to breathe. We're always just breathing. And so you follow your own breath and you'll get out of that time thing that's just a mind never ending loop. And from there, that you'll start to think differently quickly. Like it can be quick. So it's not real that we need all this time to figure this stuff out. It's not real. It's not true.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, that's very interesting. It's definitely providing a lot of food for thought in here. And there's something that we tell everybody when we're talking about kind of like selling, right? Which is think about what's in it for them. And when you're talking about this, it's like you want, what's best for you. I'm like, with them.
With them.
What's in it for me, right? At the end of the day. And, the start with the why theory from like Simon Sinek, right? Like always, what is the why? I feel like first of all, that's very popular now, right? And out in the entrepreneurial world, because it's like I feel like people always need this motivation, right? Like this refueling, rekindling of their passion, right? Towards their goal. So a lot of people refer back to start with the why. And I feel like a lot of people, their why is always like this big thing under their perception for others. Which is interesting because now you mentioned, no, it has to be for you. And I'm not gonna lie, I think I side more with you on this one because of my personal experience. I remember we were joining this accountability group, and one of the things that you had to do was, what is your big why? And you gotta say it every single day. I had such a hard time coming up with this thing, what is my big why? Because, inside of me, I was like, well, I'm doing this because, I want a good business. I want to be a good, I want to be a awesome entrepreneur and grow. And yes, that will, as consequence, will, drip into my personal life, my relationship, etc. But, I put a why that was for others, right? I said, I want to help other entrepreneurs do X, Y, and Z. And the result was that every single time I would read that why, I wasn't getting fueled or, my passion wasn't getting rekindled, whatever. Like it wasn't happening.
Right.
And I think it's because it wasn't for me. But here's the caveat is like thinking that before I used to feel, and I will, I think I still do feel that way a little bit selfish because now you're like, wow, I'm doing it for me, right? I'm just thinking about me. how can people move on from that feeling of selfishness? Or is it something that has just been developed because of the message that's out there, right?
Well, let's really just answer the question. So, life is selfish. Who's going to breathe for you? And who's going to die for you? So, life is a selfish experience. And you are born, and we're all born with these superpowers. And it's not even up to us what superpowers we're born with. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And so we have to selfishly pay attention to what ignites us. Because that's our data. And it's not hokey, and it's not being greedy. There's a difference between being greedy and paying attention. And so if I don't pay attention, like right now, I'm not acting. Like right now, this is totally, I'm in the zone, because this is growth. This is interesting. This is a performance. This is me using myself. And I can't fake it. And if I was faking it, it wouldn't work. And you'd be like, okay, well, that was okay. Let's, I wouldn't make my highest impact.
Yeah.
And so the umbrella is, I need to love. And that sounds so corny, but love is a really huge skill. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot to love in your work, to love in your family, to love yourself, to pull that off. I mean, that takes an unconventional toolbox. So it's self-centered, but it's not greedy. And so I think we get confused between the two.
I love it. Thank you for bringing this to my awareness. And I feel like in a way, it has given me permission too, to like lean into that, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
And I know we're coming close to an end here, and we're definitely going to have another part 2 where we talk a little bit. I heard you mention a few times toolbox, and that is something actually that I saw on your website as well. So I'm sure you have some sort of framework based on that, right, that you might call the toolbox, which I would love to explore in the next conversation. And of course, maybe in there we can catch up on your creator story, right? Like that's that new identity that you're building as a creator. I would love to see how that's going, what you felt. And I'm curious, right? Today's conversation went a lot around, mostly, right, about these 2 secrets, which is the superpower and the flow, right?
Yes.
How can, usually we ask for an action point at the end, right? And I would love for those listening, right, that maybe they're confused on like, what is their superpower? What can they do?
Yes.
To what action can they take to learn about their superpower?
It's a beautiful question, and I'm really glad you asked, because when you work with me, I always give you homework.
Yes.
Let's go.
Always give homework.
Certified. I confirm that.
Right?
She did give me homework.
I did, right? I snuck it in there.
Yes.
So here's how you start. You pay attention not to what you've become good at, but you go back to when you were little. And what would you spend hours doing? Would you spend hours pretending? Would you spend hours riding your bike? Did you spend hours catching tadpoles? Did you spend hours taking things apart and putting them back together? Did you spend hours playing sports? Whatever, those are clues to what you're just naturally doing when you have all the time in the world. And what we do as we grow older is we put them away and we say, now it's time to go be successful. And we're putting our success in a box because we're limiting ourselves, because now we're only going to do these things, and all those things that started just from being born, that's actually how we're going to really catapult our performance. So I want to say those things when you want to review them, and your job is to understand if you want to be an ultra high performer and create and have novelty and passion in your life, they're mandatory. They're mandatory.
This is great. Can we play this game for like 1 minute? Do we have enough time with you, Sherry? Yeah, for that? Okay.
Yep.
What are the things that you're doing as like the homework? Like pay attention to when you were little, and what do you spend so much time doing?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, my thought went to the podcast right now. Like when you were talking that, my thought went like, now I know why I like the podcast so much. And I'm like, because every conversation is new. It's novelty, right? I'm like the podcast, the conversation itself is a medium.
But wait,
it's a skill. I know.
That's not the question.
I know that's not the question, but
Okay.
I'm just talking about kind of like going through my realization here. I'm like, wow, I love this because of the novelty aspect of it. Now, what did I do as a kid? I mean, I feel like we kind of like grew up in a routine with like school and soccer, but like you said, as soccer, every practice is different, right? And I love
do soccer
that
on your free time because you
a lot with our dad, and I didn't like practicing that much with our dad because it didn't have that much aspect of novelty because it was always the same freaking sessions every single time.
But Sherry,
now, Fonzie, I want you to watch what's happening. So, okay?
Yeah.
Now, Luis,
I guess
you have to be careful. You're using a superpower right now to question him, but you didn't answer your own question.
I will answer my own question.
There.
Yeah, I will answer my question. My question to you is like, what did we spend hours doing on our own?
What did you?
I know. I will answer. I know my answer, and
What's
I
your
will say
answer?
it. But my question is, like on our own, based on our own call, or because other people are telling us to do that on our free time?
Let's not get
Too specific.
complicated
Okay.
because we all grew up and we were raised in families somehow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of influences.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so you can be forced into playing soccer. Okay?
Okay.
And
so,
you can hate soccer, and what you're doing while you're in soccer is you're off in your imagination. And so if you remember soccer and you remember daydreaming, then daydreaming is your actual superpower.
okay, I remember something different for me. So
Okay.
the way I interpreted the question is like things that I would do on my own. So soccer obviously was a big part of our life, and we did that, yes, a lot. But to me, was watching TV. Like that's what I would spend hours doing when I was not there, and that's a constant battle with my dad. And I'm trying to relate it to why I enjoyed so much, like, and obviously TV at the time, but content, right?
Okay. Now, I want you to here's your homework. Okay. I want you to remember being a kid and watching TV, and I want you to look at it from a different lens. Okay. Because there's all this social connotation about kids shouldn't be watching TV and it's bad to watch TV and you're a couch. Okay. I want you to pay attention.
Dig deeper, right?
Just let it occur to you. What did you watch? What did you love about it? And how is it still playing out for you today? And I'm going to say, so you're the soccer player. You could think soccer is your superpower, but really look what you're creating. You're creating shows. And there's a theme, right?
Okay, so here's where I go, and I will probably wrap up with this. Is I remember one specific, like one of those flow moments, which is crazy.
Yes.
Watching TV in the couch, I remember thinking, how cool would it be to just sit in the couch and watch content all day long? And I'm a hyper consumer of content, like as Fonzie, right? Like we listen to podcasts on the drive
There
here.
you go.
We watch
There you
stuff,
go.
we study it, like it evolves, right?
Okay, Fonzie, I want you to watch this, and I'm going to leave you with this because then I got to go.
Yes.
Luis, here's another superpower you have, and I don't think you know it yet. Fonzie, I want you to hear this. Luis, what you can do, not only do you see content, you freeze on certain screens, and you can replay those screens and rewind and see it again and rewind and see it again. And I want you to know most people can't do that. You've said a few times just in our conversation, I'm remembering this. I'm remembering this. That's a superpower. Okay.
Like recalling.
Recalling, but recalling vividly.
Yeah.
That's a superpower.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I don't do that at all. I never do that.
If there's
And
something,
you just do it naturally. Mm-hmm.
if there's something opposite to a superpower, mine is that I forget a little bit.
Sherry, yeah.
I
I know we have to go. Part
no,
two
wait.
has to come.
Can people have more than one superpower?
Of course, she said that.
We have many superpowers.
Many superpowers. You see, I
Yes.
told you, I forget things.
And I remember that. Sherry, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Anything
Amazing.
you want to
Thank you.
add before we head out?
If you want to perform at your ultra levels, there are tools and you can learn them. And my providing those tools to people is one of the ways that I use so many of my own superpowers. And that's why I excel at it. And that's why when you're with me, you're like, whoa, that was really great. And I could say that, not egotistical, but it's taken me a long time to understand. I can say that genuinely because I'm awed by it also. Like, it's just amazing. And so when you use yourself this way, you're really just humble. Like, I'm just using myself the way I'm supposed to be used. And that's when we're at our best. That's when we're
Yes.
Love it.
Sherry, I'm going to make the last comment here. People need to see you on screen and listen to you. So we cannot wait to see the content that comes out. So everybody that has been part of this conversation and want to learn more about Sherry, we're going to leave all her social links linked below. So go connect with her. Go ask her questions. Go tell her you need to start a podcast right now. Challenge her because it's amazing. So Sherry, extremely thankful that you were able to come to the show today. And you were extremely generous with your time. So, Fonzie, anything else you want to add?
I was going to say thank you. This was absolutely amazing. I was at the edge of my seat, just soaking everything in. I can't wait to re-listen to this. And honestly, I can't wait to share it with everybody so they can, can bring awareness to themselves and, hopefully start seeing things with a different set of eyes.
Right? And Luis, let's thank our coach for bringing us together, Katie Richardson, right?
Yes.
Let's do it. A little plug for Katie Richardson. Let's do it. Yay.
We'll surprise her tomorrow in our session.
Okay, yes.
With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Contents Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at These Bros Co.
That is right. And if Sherry here help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.